The rain came down in sheets that night, streaking across the wide windows of Marcus Harrington's office. The new district attorney sat in silence. The city sprawled beneath him in a blur of glowing lights. But his eyes weren't on the skyline. They were locked on the small flash drive resting on his desk, its single video file already burned into his memory. The shadowed figure's warning replayed in his mind. You're closer than you think, but if you keep going, it will cost you everything. Evelyn, the journalist who risked everything to help him, was still missing. And Marcus knew. Every hour that passed made the odds of finding her alive slimmer. Marcus leaned back, replaying the scrambled audio from the ambush. Half the recording was static, but fragments emerged. Voices, a name, and the sound of Evelyn screaming before the feed cut. He clenched his jaw. The syndicate thought they could scare him into silence. Instead, they'd done the opposite. You took Evelyn to warn me, he muttered to himself. But you just gave me the fire I needed. That night, his encrypted phone buzzed. A new message appeared. Unknown number. You want Evelyn? You want Cole? Meet me at Pier 7. Midnight. Come alone. Marcus didn't hesitate. He drove through the storm, pistol holstered under his jacket, instincts sharp. At the pier, a hooded figure waited in the shadows. Who are you? Marcus demanded. The figure's voice was calm, low. Someone who knows what you're fighting. But if you want to win, you'll need to understand Cole isn't your real enemy. He's just a piece on the board. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Then tell me who's pulling the strings. The figure leaned closer. A judge. High-ranking. Untouchable, or so he thinks. He oversees the cases that keep the syndicate alive. And Cole? He was their puppet. Disposable. Evelyn found proof. Proof they couldn't allow her to share. Marcus's pulse quickened. A judge. That explained the reach, the protection, the silence. But before he could press for more, the figure slipped into the night. Back in his office, Marcus dug deeper. He traced donations, trial outcomes, shell companies. The pattern was undeniable. Judges steering verdicts. Prosecutors burying evidence. Businessmen profiting from wrongful convictions and seized assets. And at the center, a name he knew all too well. Judge Halstrom. Respected. Feared. Celebrated as incorruptible. But the deeper Marcus looked, the clearer the truth became. Halstrom was the syndicate's guardian, shielding corruption from the law itself. Evelyn's notes, recovered from her trashed apartment, pointed Marcus toward an abandoned safe house on the city's edge. It matched details from the broken audio file. Marcus went alone. He wore black, moving through the overgrown brush with the precision of a man who had served in uniform long before wearing a suit. His military instincts guided him. Inside the safe house, the air smelled of mildew and fear. Chains clinked faintly in the dark. And then her voice, weak but alive. Marcus. He froze, his chest tightening. Evelyn was here. But before he could reach her, a familiar voice rang out, dripping with smugness. Well, the hero himself. From the shadows stepped Cole, the disgraced prosecutor. He looked haggard, desperate, but his grin was sharp. You really don't know when to quit, Harrington. You think being DA gives you power? No, power is controlling the law. And that's what I do. Marcus's eyes locked on Evelyn, bound in the corner. Let her go, Cole. This ends tonight. Cole chuckled. Oh, it ends tonight. But not for me, for you. The syndicate made a mistake when they let you live. I won't. Suddenly, the sound of heavy boots filled the room. Armed men stormed in, surrounding them. Cole smirked. My reinforcements. You're finished. But then something shifted. The men didn't point their weapons at Marcus. They pointed them at Cole. Confusion flickered across Cole's face. Wait. What are you doing? I'm with you. I've done everything you asked. The leader of the men spoke coldly. You've become a liability, Cole. The judge doesn't need you anymore. Cole's grin collapsed into terror. For the first time, Marcus saw him not as a predator, but prey. The moment of chaos was all Marcus needed. He lunged forward, disarmed one of the guards, and the room erupted in violence. Shouts. Gunfire. Smoke. Through the madness, Marcus freed Evelyn, dragging her toward the back exit. They sprinted into the night, the storm masking their escape. Evelyn clutched his arm, breathless. "We have enough, Marcus. The files, the recordings, we can go public, expose them all." But Marcus shook his head grimly. "Not yet. We've only scratched the surface. If we strike now, they'll bury us. We need undeniable proof. Evidence even the judge can't silence." Back at his office, Evelyn laid out her recovered notes, her hands trembling. Marcus pieced together the fragments from the audio recording. A single name surfaced again and again. Judge Halstrom, the syndicate's true puppet master. As Marcus stared at the name, his phone buzzed. A new encrypted message appeared. "Unknown sender. You've taken your first step. Now be ready. The judge already knows you're coming." Marcus's heart pounded. If Halstrom was already aware, then every move from here forward would be a war. The screen went black, his reflection staring back at him. The battle wasn't just for justice anymore. It was survival. The night was quiet, but Marcus Harrington's mind was anything but. His makeshift war room, a dimly lit basement beneath an abandoned print shop, buzzed with the faint hum of laptops and the constant shuffle of Evelyn's papers. On the walls, pinned with red string, were names, dates, bank accounts, and a spiderweb of connections that all led back to one man, Judge Halstrom. Halstrom wasn't just a judge. He was a kingmaker, a shadow puppeteer who had spent decades bending the justice system until it bowed to his will. Harrington had thought Cole was the enemy, but Cole was just a pawn, one of many discarded the moment he became inconvenient. The true architect of corruption sat comfortably in his chambers, untouchable, smug, and dangerous. Harrington knew tonight everything would change. Either he struck first, or he'd be buried before sunrise. Evelyn leaned over the laptop, her brow furrowed. "Marcus, this isn't enough. These testimonies, the sealed case files, they're damning, but without a direct link to Halstrom, it'll look like conjecture. The syndicate will spin this as a smear campaign." Harrington, his voice low but steady, replied, "That's why we need his voice, his face. We don't just accuse him. We catch him in the act." Pinned on the wall was a schedule leaked to them by Judge Ramirez, one of Halstrom's oldest colleagues. Ramirez had risked his career to provide it, but even he had whispered over the burner line, "You're playing with fire. Halstrom doesn't forgive. And he doesn't miss." Harrington knew the risks. He'd fought in darker places before, overseas, but nothing chilled him like this battlefield. One where the enemy wore robes and ties, where the law itself was a weapon. Ramirez had delivered more than scheduled. He'd given them whispers of Halstrom's inner circle. Judges, politicians, corporate tycoons, all stitched together by greed. Evelyn spent hours piecing together the financial trails. Offshore accounts, kickbacks, even prison contracts are tied to wrongful convictions. "We're not just chasing Halstrom," she muttered. "We're staring at a machine that feeds on injustice." But Marcus kept his eyes locked on one name, Halstrom. Take down the head and the body collapses. The plan was simple in theory. They'd stage a meeting with a known syndicate associate, an old fixer who had once handled settlements for Halstrom's private deals. Harrington's hope was that Halstrom himself would either call in to finalize it or send a direct message. That would be the link they needed. The warehouse was wired, hidden mics, miniature cameras, all streaming to a secure server Evelyn had set up. The fixer arrived, grizzled and cautious, his eyes darting around. He didn't trust Harrington, but greed outweighed suspicion. "Judge'll be pleased," the fixer said, sliding a manila envelope across the table. "Once this goes through, the rest will follow." Harrington leaned forward, calm but deliberate. "I need Halstrom's assurance. Directly. Otherwise, this deal doesn't move." The fixer smirked. "You don't ask for the judge. The judge calls you." And for a moment, Harrington thought it might work. But fate had other plans. Evelyn's phone buzzed violently. Her face went pale. She barely whispered, "Marcus?" "The safe house." An explosion rocked the night, miles away but deafening in their minds. The hideout where Evelyn had been working alone 2 nights earlier was nothing but fire and ash now. If she had stayed behind just one more evening, she'd have been a corpse. And then it got worse. Social media erupted with a smear campaign. Headlines flashed on the screen. District Attorney Marcus Harrington linked to fabricated convictions. Anonymous leaks show Harrington accepted bribes. Hero or hypocrite? The DA under fire. Halstrom had moved first. He was poisoning the public well, making Harrington look like the very monster he was hunting. Evelyn slammed her fist on the desk. He's burying us alive. If the people think you're corrupt, no evidence we present will matter. But Harrington didn't flinch. Instead, he sat back, his voice ice-cold. Then we don't hide anymore. We make him come to us. That night, Harrington filmed a short, grainy video. His face partially shadowed, his voice steady. We have proof. We know who's behind it. Judge Halstrom, your days in the shadows are numbered. Justice is coming. The clip went viral within hours. Millions of views. The internet caught fire with speculation. And just as Harrington had hoped, the message reached the judge. An encrypted call came through Evelyn's laptop. No video, just a voice. Cold. Commanding. Mr. Harrington, let's talk. Privately. The trap was set. Or so Harrington thought. The meeting place was an abandoned courthouse, a cruel irony. The same halls where innocent men and women had been condemned by Halstrom's gavel now echoed with silence. Harrington arrived alone, though Evelyn monitored from a van outside. His jacket was wired with transmitters, every word feeding back to her. Judge Halstrom stepped from the shadows, not in robes but in a tailored suit. His face bore no guilt, only the calm arrogance of a man who believed himself untouchable. Halstrom's voice cut through the silence. You should have stayed in your lane, Marcus. Prosecutors come and go. But judges, we write history. Harrington's jaw clenched. You don't write history. You erase it. You bury it under lies. Halstrom smirked. Justice is an illusion. And you're naive enough to believe it's real. That's why you'll lose. The words hung heavy, every syllable dripping with venom. But Halstrom didn't know the truth. Every word was being recorded. Harrington had him, or so he thought. Back in the van, Evelyn gasped. The live feed from Harrington's transmitter suddenly glitched. The screen went black. The audio cut. All files wiped in seconds. Her computer screamed with alerts. Intrusion detected. Their systems had been hacked. Every piece of evidence they'd collected gone. Inside the courthouse, Harrington's burner phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, and the screen glowed with a single message. We warned you. This is your final chance to disappear. Next time, we won't miss it. Harrington looked up and realized Halstrom was smiling. Not because he'd been caught, but because he knew he still owned the game. The apartment was silent, save for the faint hum of Evelyn's laptop as she typed furiously. Marcus Harrington stood by the window, staring into the night. Below, the city pulsed with its usual chaos. Horns blaring, sirens wailing. But in his chest, there was only stillness. Stillness and anger. All of it, Harrington said quietly. His voice edged with disbelief. Months of evidence. Testimonies. Financial trails. Gone. Wiped clean. Evelyn closed the laptop with a snap. That's what they do, Marcus. They erase, they rewrite, they control the story before it's even told. Harrington shook his head. If the system's poisoned, then the only jury left is the people. For the first time that night, Evelyn looked up. Then we take it to them. The next morning, newspapers and digital headlines flooded the city. DA Harrington exposed in fraud probe. Secret ties between district attorney and criminal syndicate? Harrington's collapse. Once hero, now suspect. Local anchors feigned neutrality but smirked through their commentary. On social media, bots and influencers pushed the narrative that Harrington was corrupt, unstable, even dangerous. The governor's office released a vague statement. We are concerned by recent developments surrounding DA Harrington and urge calm as investigations proceed. By mid-afternoon, The city council was pressuring Harrington's office to suspend him. His staff, once loyal, now whispered in corners, unsure of who to believe. Evelyn slammed a stack of tabloids onto the table. "They're suffocating you, Marcus. If you don't change the narrative fast, you're finished." But that night, a spark lit a fire. A shaky cell phone video began trending. It showed a homeless veteran standing on a street corner, clutching a battered cardboard sign. His voice cracked but carried conviction. "You all think Marcus Harrington's corrupt? Let me tell you something. That man's the only one who ever looked me in the eye. When I was being railroaded for a crime I didn't commit, Harrington stood up in court and defended me. Not because he had to, but because it was right. I ain't got nothing to gain here, but I'll say this. He's the only honest man I ever met in that courthouse." The clip went viral overnight. Thousands of comments poured in. People Harrington had helped, families of wrongly convicted men and women, victims who'd finally seen justice. "Marcus Harrington gave me back my life. He's not perfect, but he's the reason my brother isn't in prison today. They're trying to silence him." The tide began to shift. Slowly, unevenly, but shift nonetheless. Evelyn leaned across the table, eyes blazing with a new lead. "I've been digging. Halstrom's clean on the surface, but I found something sloppy." She pulled up a series of offshore wire transfers linked to a mid-level banker named Daniel Kearns. The transactions connected directly to shell companies rumored to belong to Halstrom. "He's the weak node," Evelyn said. "Kearns isn't disciplined like the rest. He's greedy, and the IRS has already flagged him. If we can flip him, we'll have the financial trail that buries Halstrom." Harrington frowned, "Which means Halstrom knows he's a liability. He'll move to erase him." "Exactly. We have to reach him first." Before they could act, Harrington made his boldest move yet. That night, he walked into a packed newsroom and demanded airtime. Cameras clicked on. Millions watched. He stood tall, though exhaustion lined his face. "My name is Marcus Harrington, and yes, I am under attack. But not because I'm corrupt, because I refuse to be silent." He paused, locking eyes with the lens. "I swore an oath to defend justice. But what I've uncovered isn't justice. It's a marketplace. A marketplace where verdicts are sold to the highest bidder. Where judges are owned, trials are rigged, and voices like mine are silenced. They've smeared me. They've destroyed my evidence. But they will not destroy the truth. If the law serves only the powerful, then it is no law at all. And I will not stop until this city is free." The broadcast ended. Within hours, hashtags exploded. Hashtag Stand with Harrington. Hashtag Justice for All. Supporters flooded the streets. Critics scoffed, calling it grandstanding. But one thing was clear. Harrington had divided the nation. And for the first time in weeks, Halstrom was rattled. Halstrom struck back swiftly. The following morning, a damning video circulated. Grainy footage showed Harrington accepting an envelope stuffed with cash in a dimly lit bar years earlier. The caption was brutal: "Harrington, exposed bribe." Talk shows erupted. Pundits mocked his whistleblower speech. Some demanded his resignation. But Evelyn studied the footage closely. Then her eyes narrowed. "Look at the shadows. The movements. The lips don't sync with the audio." She zoomed in, running the clip frame by frame. "Marcus, this isn't real. It's AI generated." Harrington exhaled sharply. "They're sloppy, desperate. Which means if we expose it, the public backlash will crush them." They didn't have long. Daniel Kearns, the banker, was already looking over his shoulder when Harrington and Evelyn finally tracked him down. The meeting took place in a dim parking garage. Kearns's hands trembled as he lit a cigarette. "You don't get it. If I talk, I'm dead. Halstrom doesn't forgive mistakes." Harrington stepped closer. "And if you don't talk, you're still dead. You're already on his cleanup list, Daniel. The only difference is whether your children grow up believing you were a coward, or a man who finally did the right thing." Kearns's cigarette slipped from his fingers. His breathing quickened. "I have documents, accounts, names. I can give you everything. But you have to get me out. Me and my family. Witness protection. Not here. Not in this country. Harrington nodded. Done. For the first time, Kearns met his eyes. There was no trust, but there was resolve. They left the garage in a small convoy, 2 cars, no lights, taking back roads toward a safe house. Evelyn tapped furiously on her laptop in the passenger seat, securing encrypted storage for Kearns's files. Once we get him secure, this is it, Marcus. This is the crack that brings the whole syndicate down. Harrington kept his eyes on the road. Not yet. We'll need more than one man's word. But it's a start. Then headlights. From nowhere, black SUVs swerved into their path. Tires screeched. The first shot shattered their windshield. Ambush! Evelyn screamed, ducking low. Kearns cried out in the back seat as gunfire ripped through the convoy. Harrington swerved hard, metal grinding, sparks flying. Masked gunmen poured out of the SUVs, rifles raised, closing in. Harrington threw the car into reverse, shielding Kearns with his own body as glass exploded around them. Evelyn's voice cut through the chaos. Marcus, they found us. This was a setup. Harrington raised his pistol, eyes blazing. The scene froze on the image of him standing firm in the gunfire, protecting the one man who could topple the syndicate.